When the Springboks face the All Blacks in the Greatest Rivalry, the spotlight will naturally fall on the biggest names. Rassie Erasmus, Siya Kolisi, Handré Pollard, Eben Etzebeth, Cheslin Kolbe, Ardie Savea, and the many other superstars who will take the field. But behind the scenes, one relatively understated figure could have an enormous influence on which team walks away with victory. That man is Jerry Flannery, the former Ireland hooker who has become a key member of Rassie Erasmus' coaching staff with the Springboks. Flannery has been entrusted with one of the most important jobs in modern international rugby: building and directing the defensive system of the world champions. With New Zealand arriving after producing huge attacking performances during the Nations Championship, the challenge facing Flannery could hardly be bigger. The All Blacks have already demonstrated that they possess the speed, creativity, physicality, and individual brilliance to punish even the smallest defensive mistake, meaning the battle between the All Blacks attack and the Springboks defense could ultimately determine the Greatest Rivalry series. Erasmus has already shown tremendous faith in Flannery, and that trust did not appear overnight. The Springboks boss specifically credited his defense coach after South Africa's narrow victory over Argentina, highlighting just how important his contribution has become. But what makes Jerry Flannery so valuable to one of the most successful coaching teams in rugby? His playing career provides part of the answer. Born in Galway, Flannery began his rugby journey with Connacht before moving to Munster, where he became one of the most respected hookers in European rugby. He won 2 European Cups with Munster and earned 41 Test caps for Ireland, gaining experience at the highest level against some of the greatest teams and players of his generation. However, his influence on rugby did not end when his playing career finished. After retiring in March 2012 following an injury suffered while representing Ireland at the Rugby World Cup in New Zealand, Flannery immediately began developing his knowledge away from the field. He enrolled in a master's degree in sports performance at the University of Limerick, demonstrating the level of curiosity and dedication that would later become one of his defining characteristics as a coach. His academic work was not simply a qualification to place on a CV. Flannery wrote his thesis on the science of line-out throwing, an area that demands an extraordinary understanding of technique, timing, movement, communication, and biomechanics. That level of detail tells us something important about the man now responsible for helping organize the Springboks defense. For Flannery, rugby is not simply about physical strength or instinct. Every tiny detail can potentially create an advantage. His coaching journey also took an unusual turn when he joined Arsenal in 2013 on a work placement as an academy strength and conditioning coach. Moving from elite rugby into one of the world's most famous football clubs gave him an opportunity to observe a completely different sporting environment. Flannery acknowledged that rugby and football are very different sports, particularly when it comes to skill development, but he also recognized that valuable ideas could move between the two disciplines. His objective was to understand how young athletes could be developed physically, kept robust, and prepared to remain healthy throughout their careers. That experience would add another layer to his coaching philosophy, and it is perhaps no surprise that his reputation for detailed preparation continued to grow. There is also a fascinating personal side to Flannery's coaching personality. Adam Baum-Jones, the former Wales and British and Irish Lions prop who worked alongside him at Harlequins, has described him as a man whose work ethic can become almost obsessive. According to Jones, their first meeting took place during a weight session, where Flannery immediately began discussing the physical capabilities of Welsh players. It was hardly the traditional small talk between new colleagues, but it perfectly captured the direct personality that would later become familiar to those working with him. The story becomes even more revealing when Jones recalls visiting Flannery's home with his partner, now wife, Katie. While everyone else waited for an Indian takeaway, Flannery remained focused on his laptop, studying lineouts. That anecdote may sound amusing, but it illustrates why Erasmus sees something special in him. Coaches at the highest level are constantly searching for marginal gains, and Flannery appears to be the kind of coach who refuses to ignore even the smallest detail. Jones described his attention to detail as extraordinary, explaining that once Flannery develops an idea, he pursues it relentlessly. The two even created a code word for those moments when Flannery was talking too much about rugby, a humorous way of reminding him that his obsession with detail occasionally needed to be switched off. Yet that same obsession could be precisely what the Springboks need as they prepare for the All Blacks. The modern New Zealand attack is built around speed, movement, support lines, quick decision-making, and players capable of creating something from apparently broken situations. The All Blacks have demonstrated that they cannot simply be defended against with a rigid structure. Defenders need to communicate constantly, make accurate reads, win collisions, and understand where the next attacking threat is coming from. This is where Flannery's preparation becomes crucial. He will have to identify the attacking patterns that New Zealand are most likely to use and ensure that every Springboks defender understands his responsibility before the opening whistle. One missed assignment could create a gap, and against the All Blacks, a gap can become a try within seconds. The challenge is even greater because Erasmus and Flannery cannot simply prepare for one superstar. The All Blacks possess multiple attacking threats, and their danger comes from the collective movement of the team as much as individual brilliance. Players such as Ardie Savea, Beauden Barrett, and other attacking weapons can change the direction of a match with a single decision, while the All Blacks forwards can create the momentum needed to put the defense under sustained pressure. That means the Springboks must balance aggression with discipline. South Africa are renowned for their physical defense, but physicality alone will not stop an attack as dangerous as New Zealand's. The defensive line must be connected, the rush must be coordinated, and the players must trust the system. That is exactly where Flannery's role becomes so important. The coach must translate complicated tactical ideas into instructions that players can execute instinctively under enormous pressure. His background as a hooker also gives him an appreciation of the physical and tactical demands of international rugby. He understands what happens inside collisions, how forwards communicate, how lineouts are organized, and how small changes in positioning can create major consequences. His academic study of lineouts may seem unrelated to his current role as a defense coach, but it demonstrates the same fundamental characteristic: understanding the details that other people might overlook. That mentality fits perfectly into the broader coaching philosophy established by Erasmus. The Springboks have become famous for their preparation, adaptability, squad depth, and willingness to search for unconventional solutions. Erasmus has surrounded himself with coaches who bring different expertise, and Flannery appears to have become an important part of that puzzle. The greatest rivalry will therefore be more than a battle between South Africa and New Zealand players. It will also be a tactical contest between coaching philosophies. Erasmus and Flannery will be attempting to create defensive answers to the attacking questions posed by the All Blacks, while the New Zealand coaching staff will be looking for ways to expose weaknesses in the Springbok structure. Whoever wins that battle of preparation could gain a decisive advantage. For the Springboks, there is also an emotional element. They are the back-to-back Rugby World Cup champions and remain the team every opponent wants to defeat. The All Blacks, meanwhile, carry their own extraordinary history and will be determined to make a statement in one of rugby's greatest rivalries. With the match taking place at Ellis Park, the atmosphere will be intense, and the pressure on every player and coach will be enormous. That makes preparation even more important. Flannery cannot control what happens after the whistle, but he can control how thoroughly the Springboks are prepared for every possible scenario. And that may ultimately be his greatest weapon. If South Africa successfully restrict the All Blacks' attacking options, force them into mistakes, dominate the defensive collisions, and maintain their discipline, much of the credit may belong to the coach working quietly behind the scenes. Jerry Flannery may not receive the same attention as Rassie Erasmus or the players wearing the famous green and gold jerseys, but his influence could be enormous. His journey from Connacht and Munster, through Ireland, Arsenal, Harlequins, and eventually into the Springboks coaching environment has created a unique coaching profile built on playing experience, academic study, physical preparation, and relentless attention to detail. Now he faces perhaps his biggest examination yet. The All Blacks are coming to Ellis Park with an attack capable of producing devastating moments, and Flannery has been tasked with finding the answers. If the Springboks emerge victorious, the headlines may belong to the players who score the tries and make the tackles, but the foundations of that victory could have been laid weeks earlier by Flannery and the defensive team. In a rivalry where the smallest margins can decide everything, the man studying every detail on his laptop could prove just as important as the stars under the stadium lights.